Hello again everyone, this is Proteus Doom back for another tutorial for Doom Eternal map making. This time I'm going to be showing you how to make new spawn locations using Notepad++. And the video I'm using here is taken from an entire encounter walkthrough that I filmed. This particular video will only be showing you how to make new spawn locations, but the rest of the walkthrough will be covering the rest of this, like how to add barrels and ammo, how to make items respawn, change the music or control the music in the encounter anyway, respawning demons, different kinds of weights, debugging, playtesting, planning, this kind of thing. All of my walkthroughs are now available with the All Access patron right here, as well as the VIP patron, and so that's where you can find it. Okay, so let's get on with the tutorial. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be showing you how to add in new spawn locations, and what we have here is this arena in Super Gore Nest when you jump down and first get the chain gun. You might remember in the original game there's a Dread Knight that comes out from behind this pillar or whatever it is. But what I want is swarms of fodder coming out, and that's what you see here. There's a bunch of zombies, so that's what I'm going to be making in this tutorial. I want to have like a swarm of zombies, there'll be a swarm of imps and soldiers and gargoyles and some other things like this. So in order to add in new spawn locations, we're going to have to create new target spawn, is like the name of the code. You can see here that I'm in the encounter that I want to edit right here. There's not much to it. As you can see, there's item 1 and item 2, and I think it ends after that. There's one single spawn AI, which is the Dread Knight. Here is the reference to the target spawn that tells the game where to spawn the Dread Knight. You can even see that the name of the target spawn is called target spawn, so that's helpful. We need to make new ones of these, but before we do that we need to figure out where the new spawns will be and make some notes about that and get the coordinates. So that's what I'm doing here. This is what I like to do then. I use a Word document that's got my plan in it for how I want to change the encounter. I make a table, give it a title. With this particular encounter I'm going to be making a swarm of fodder, and so I'm also going to be making a spawn group, because that's going to make it a lot easier to do that, and so that's why I've made a note here about spawn group. What I'm doing here then is I'm adding letters and giving a gap so that I can put the coordinates of where the fodder will be. And well, this is the way that I label my target spawn. You know, I have one target spawn A, another one B, another one C, etc. So you can see here 4, 8, 12, 16. I'm aiming for 16 new spawn positions. So once you've done that, you want to go into Doom Eternal again, get into the encounter. You can see that's where I am, and you want to sit in the places where you want your spawn. I think I showed this in a previous video, but use MH spawn info to get your position. Something I just recently learned actually is no target, another console command. If you type in no target, then the AI will ignore you, and so that's quite useful. That way they won't be annoying you the whole time. Anyway, so you get the position, you put it in, and I'm going to fill up the table with these positions. So all I'm doing here is that I'm alt-tabbing into Doom, and I'm moving a little bit to the right to get a new position, then alt-tabbing back out and putting the positions back in again. And there you have it. I have all the spawn positions and I have the orientation. I didn't bother including the orientation in all of these fields because I want them all to be facing the same way, i.e. towards the player, and so I only need that once, and that's why I did that. So now that we got the spawn locations, the coordinates, we need to make new target spawn, and so that's what I'm going to do now. A general good rule to follow is to copy code in the game that is closest to the code, most similar, that you actually want to do. Now what I mean by that is that when you're making new target spawn, I aim to copy the target spawn from the game that is most similar to it, so target spawn that's in the same encounter. If I want to just do fodder, then I'll try and copy a target spawn that's used for giving fodder. That's the kind of thing I look for. With this encounter though, I don't have really any choice. All I have is just the Dread Knight. He's a heavy, but that's all I got. So what I'm doing then is I'm going to copy the name of the target spawn and find it in the code. So you highlight it, Control C, copy, Control F, go find it. And here it is then. You know, most of the bunches of code begin in this way. I have entity, then entity def, and then there's the name of the entity, the bunch of code. You can also see down here class. This tells you the type of code that you're looking at. Id target spawn. Yeah, that's what we want. We want a target spawn. So we found the target spawn for the Dread Knight. What we want to do then is copy this. So select it, Control C, Control V. Now we go back up to the top. I'm giving a title to my new target spawn. I use TS to stand for target spawn. Enc 14 is encounter 14. All this helps me find the encounter later when I want to change it. I gave it a bit of a title so I know what it's about. Add it to my bookmarks Duke. And now I need to change the title of the entity as well. Of course, when you're changing the title, you want to make it unique so it's not going to clash with any other code in the game. And so the way I like to do that is I include the encounter the target spawns in. Again, it makes it easier to find. A bit of a description. I also like to add in an A for the first target spawn at the end there. This is useful because this corresponds with my notes. You can see one target spawn is going to be A, another one B, C, etc. like that. So there's the name of the entity, and I'm going to update my notes as well. So again, I can find it in my notes. We look down the code here and we can find this part, AI state override. This part determines how the AI spawns into the level. At the moment it's default, which means it will just magically appear. It will just blink in. I don't want that to happen though, because after all I'm going to be having swarms of fodder and they're going to come in one after another, and so I think teleport would be a better way of doing it. I just edit that to be teleport. The next thing we need to update then are entity defs and targets, which are a bit lower down. You can't see them at the moment. Rather than adding in all the AI into the entity devs and the targets for every single target spawn, like I showed you in a previous video, it is much easier instead to just include a link to a target spawn parent. And a target spawn parent is basically an entity that includes lots of entity devs and targets. And so that way you can have lots of target spawns linking to the same target spawn parent, and then everyone has permissions. You can include this in the target spawn itself in this code, but for me I'm going to be making swarms of fodder, and an easier way of doing that, like lots of demons coming in at the same time, I'm going to use a spawn group, and so I'm going to include the target spawn parent link in the spawn group rather than the target spawn. So to include a target spawn parent in a spawn group, what I need to do is remove the entity defs and the targets from this target spawn. I have noticed that sometimes it seems okay and you can leave the entity devs alone and the targets in the target spawn, but sometimes it doesn't work, so I'm not sure what to think, but I'm gonna remove them in this video. So the way that you delete them is that you select the items, make sure that you get the brackets that are included. You know, Notepad++ is so cool. I only just realized this, but when you click on one of the brackets, it shows you which other bracket links with it, which is awesome. So make sure you get all of it. We delete this part, and then we're going to be changing the num to be 0 instead. And here we are down to the targets, and again we're going to be deleting this, so just delete the item and change that to 0. That's what I'm going to be doing here. So in my encounter I want swarms of fodder to spawn in and come towards the player, so I want them all to face the same direction. So I'm going to update the spawn orientation first, and then I'm going to copy this target spawn and paste it another 15 times so that I have 16 target spawn. You know, a key thing with making target spawn is making the first target spawn exactly the way you want it, so that way you don't need to edit 16 target spawns after you've copied them all in. Here I'm updating the spawn position, and I think that's it. Time to make 16 more of these target spawns. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to Control V another 15 times. And now I'm going to go backwards and replace the spawn position. Make sure you get both of those brackets in. And change the title of the entity. Instead of an A, make it a P. And so that's how I do it. And then I go back, do O, N, etc. till you get to the end. Okay, that's it. So the target spawn are now all done. What I'm going to do next then is make a spawn group to make putting in the swarms of fodder easier. So like I mentioned before, it's best to copy code that is similar to the code that you want. So I want to find a spawn group that's already in this level to copy that one. How do I find a spawn group? Well, I've made a handy list here of types of entities to help me find it. You can notice that we already have the id target spawn, which we just made, but this time I want to find an id target spawn group. So I'm going to copy this, go back into my level and find one to copy. So here we go. Here's a target spawn group, and that will do nicely. I'm just going to copy that, duplicate it, give it a title, change the name, update my notes. Instead of TS for target spawn, I use SG for spawn group. What I'm also doing here, I'm not entirely sure how necessary this is, but I just copied the spawn position of one of my target spawn, and I'm gonna replace the spawn position in the spawn group. If I had a guess, I would say that this tells the game that this spawn group is in this general area, like this is where it's gonna appear. Again, I'm not really sure if this is necessary, but why take the risk is my attitude, I guess. So I've done that. Now you can see down here there are spawners. So this tells the game which target spawn are in this spawn group. And you can see here there are 5 spawners, and these are the names of the target spawn. I think you can guess what you're going to do now. You're going to replace these with the target spawn that you already have. I've got 16 target spawns, and so I'm going to put in the 16 in this spawn group. So you can see here why it's useful to name your target spawn A, B, C, because it's quite easy to change them like this. Make sure you update the item numbers as well. I don't think it will crash the game if this isn't done, but the target spawn will probably not show up. And also update the total number of spawners. Again, I don't think it will crash, but if this was 14, for example, it would probably miss the last 2 in the list. Okay, so the spawn group is basically done, but the thing that we're still missing are the permissions. And to give this spawn group and all of its spawners permissions for all the demons that I want to put in, I'm going to include a reference to a target spawn parent. So underneath the including touching spawners, you want to type in target spawn parent like this. Don't forget the capital letters, they're important. Equals and then quotation marks. What I want to do now then is find a target spawn parent entity, and ideally it will have all of the demons that I already want to put in my encounter, but if it doesn't, I can always just add them in. But first things first, I need to find one of those entities. So I'm going to copy this bit of code to find a target spawn parent. And here we go. We found another target spawn parent in another spawn group by the looks of things. So I'm going to copy that. Now I happen to know that this target spawn parent has lots of demons in it and all of the ones that I need. And so I'm just going to copy its name, go back to my spawn group and put it in. Now I'm going to show you what this target spawn parent looks like. So I'm just finding the target spawn parent. And there it is. Now, yeah, like I said, the way you can know that you got the right thing, the right part of the code, it looks like this: entity, entity def, and there's the title. And here's the class, it target spawn parent. So let's see what's inside this thing. And you can see in here then entity devs, and lots of them, 25. It's got zombies, imps, soldiers, everything. That's why it's going to work then, because the spawn group has got a target spawn parent which links to this, and it's got all of these permissions. Lower down it's also got the targets, and so that's how that can work. Yeah, here are the targets, all the same targets here as well. Okay, so I've gone back to my spawn group, and something really important that I forgot to include is a semicolon right here. This actually caused the game to crash. You need to have a semicolon right here for it to work. And that's it for the spawn group. Now it's time to go back to the encounter. So here we are, you can see the single spawn AI Dread Knight. I want to change that, so I'm going to delete the Dread Knight and add in a spawn AI. Spawn AI is for making groups of AI, and to use spawn AI you need a spawn group, and that's what we've already made. So if we look at this spawn AI, you can see there's the spawn type, that's just what type of demon you want in there, how many demons you want. In my spawn group I think there was 16, so I'll be putting 16 in there. You can put a higher number than how many are in the spawn group, but if you do that you'll notice that demons will be overlapping and it will look kind of silly. In here goes the name of the spawn group, and group label is not essential, you can just leave that blank. And that's it, I just made a swarm of zombies. When you're finished with the encounter, don't forget to update the item numbers, which is what I'm doing right here. And when you're done with them, go back up to the top and add in the total number. And now it's time to test it. And there they are, the zombies spawned in. So that's how you can make new spawn locations and spawn groups too. And that's all from me then. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please like and subscribe and leave a comment. Maybe there's something else you want to know how to do. And like I mentioned before, the rest of this walkthrough is in my Patreon. You'll find a link to that in the description below. Until next time then. Bye.